Hi, I'm Daniel Fisher, and on today's Synth Clips, we're going to cover something that's near and dear to my heart. That is the 914 fixed filter bank. Now, if you watch a lot of my Moog modular videos, you've probably seen me play with one on the System 55 video and the Model 3P video. And it is a certain trick that I do with it that I did ever since 1980 when I played my first System 55 at Northern Illinois University. And that is, you take white noise and put it into a fixed filter bank, and it just makes these amazing planetary sounds. And fast forward 30 plus years, and I finally got to try it again on the reissue System 55, and it reminded me how much I love that sound. And then I did the Model 3P a couple of years later, and it's like, I have to get one of these. And I actually went and priced them out, and I could not afford them. And Behringer came out with a version, and it's not exactly the same. It's not using the same electrical parts, but the key thing for me was, did it create the same goosebumps and chills that the original did? And it absolutely does. So I'm not going to do anything about comparing specs or anything like that. I just want to show you how to use it, or how I use it, and why it's so exciting to me. And the greatest part about it being so affordable, it's like a guitar pedal, is that I was able to get two of them. So now I'm going to do something that I just love, but in true stereo. I do have a delay and reverb, but I'm going to keep those off for most of the time. But it does kind of gel the soup a little bit. So I will turn that on later. So what do I have here? So obviously I have the 914 fixed filter bank. This is the Behringer version. And I have two of them. And then I'm feeding it white noise, so I got this 923 that has both white noise and pink noise out. It's also got a high pass and low pass, which I can use with this system, but for right now I'm going to leave it out just to avoid confusion. And then over here I just have a 955 set of attenuators, just so I can set the level out of left and right, mostly so I don't overload pedals and things like that. But it's also cool to be able to do panning in real time. So that is all of it. So what is it? Well, it looks like an EQ because you got low frequency, high frequencies, then in hertz you got 125, 175, 250, 350, 500, 700, 1000, 1400, 2000, 2800, 4000, 5600, and then that high pass, which is allowing high frequencies out. But it's not an EQ. And what's the difference? The difference is an EQ, which I love with synthesis, and if you haven't seen my EQ video, definitely watch that. But EQs will give you a boost of 12 dB or minus 12 dB or plus 18 dB to minus 18 dB. Usually they don't go much farther than that. And that will significantly reduce the sound to kind of change the tone quality of something, but it certainly won't eliminate it. A fixed filter bank, on the other hand, when you turn the knob down, you have infinite attenuation. I mean, right now the white noise source is going into both the left and right filter bank, but we're not hearing anything because all the knobs are down. So I can just turn up or down any knobs as I please, and now that I have it in stereo, I can create these stereo planetary ambiances. And I put the whole thing in a Roland powered Eurorack box, and the lid comes with a handle, so I literally can just pick this up and take it to some place where there's a synth jam or electronics jam and just add an atmospheric quality to the whole thing. It's kind of silly on one hand, but it's something really different, and I didn't ever want to have to build it every time I needed it. I wanted one box with this exact kind of sound ready to go all the time. Enough talk, here we go. So now I'm going to show you what I can do with the low pass filter and the high pass filter as well. I only have one of each of them, so how am I going to do stereo? The answer is I'm going to use a little trick using the extra input and output on each of these. So instead of the white noise going to both, I'm going to have the white noise go to the low pass filter, and then I'm going to have the output of the low pass filter go to the high pass filter, and then I'm going to have the output of the high pass filter go to the first fixed filter bank. And then I'm going to go to the second input, which is just a direct connection to the other input. And so normally you'd use that to bring two sources into this. Instead, I'm going to have the white noise come through here, and it's going to come right back out and use that as the input to here. And so now the end result is that I should have everything be just the same. And I'll just pick up some random frequencies. But now I can high pass or low pass the entire thing because the one source of high pass and low pass is going to both of them. So watch this. So without having to turn a bunch of knobs, I can significantly roll off the high end in equal parts to both sides. Or do the same thing to the high pass and roll off the bottom. And if I do both, I'll get a band pass. And then, as I mentioned before, I have a set of attenuators, and I have a leftover one, which I could use if I brought an external source and needed to control that volume. But I'm going to use these attenuators to do panning now. It's a lot of knobs. Okay, now I'm going to turn on the delay. And the cool thing about the delay, like I said, it kind of gels the whole thing. So it gives you a little bit more of a real 3D atmosphere. And it sort of tames the knob turns. So as you turn them, it's not quite as jarring, especially when you turn them off. You get tails of the noise at that frequency. So let's try that. Okay, so we had a little bit of shooting time left, and I thought, man, I've got to try this. So I got a Roland FA06. I got the blacked out version just because. And Because I have stereo, I can just take the stereo out of the Roland and go right into this. By the way, if you're doing Eurorack stuff and you're trying to bring guitar pedals and everything else, get these instead of adapters. You'll thank yourself in the long run. 1/4 inch to 3.5 millimeter. So for the first sound, I'm just going to take a stereo piano and go into this in stereo, come out in stereo, and then I'm going to go into this with a stereo ping pong. Why? Because I don't want effects from this. I want effects happening to the specific bands that I pick out. So I'm going to just play an F Lydian kind of chord here. That ought to do it. And now bring up different frequency bands. And so now I have a Jupiter string sound, and I've got a big chord here. I've got some reverb on the end here so that as I'm turning the knobs, that's being reflected in the reverb. I've turned the reverb off on the internal. All right, so for the last one, I'm going to use a choir sound. I've turned the reverb off. I'll eventually turn a reverb on over here, and I'll use the shimmer effect to do something crazy. I've played a G minor major 7 chord across the keyboard, and now let's start bringing some up. Wow, that was fun. So hopefully this fixed filter bank demonstration will give you some ideas on how to use fixed filter banks with your own synthesis and music production. If you have any question about the Behringer modules or the Roland FAO series or the Source Audio Collider, Reverb, and Delay, please contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. If you have any further ideas for synth clips, just put them in the comments below. Also, I'm going to put a link to the playlist for all of our synth clips, as well as links to the System 55 and the Moog Model 3P synthesizer demonstrations as well. My name is Daniel Fisher. Thank you very much for watching.